Okay, welcome to SketchUp for Education. My name is Brian Reiber. I teach carpentry in the School of Trades and Technology at Camosun College in Victoria, British Columbia. I've been using SketchUp personally for many years. I was a contractor before I was a carpentry instructor, and I would use it often for house design as well as just simple problem solving. So, I need to fit a staircase into a certain design or a built-in cabinet, and I could often work out many of the problems at the design stage, which just streamlines it when you get onto the job site. As an instructor, I've been trying to implement it more and more, either as a, something that we're directly learning, so how to draft a set of plans, or I would be using it to help kind of flush out my students' projects. So for example, I'll be showing you a set of plans where maybe for some students, they could use a little bit more information. So a few visual cues along the way. So on today's agenda, we're going to be looking at a few things like the 4 R's of education and how they apply to Google SketchUp, and maybe where some don't work as well as others. Andragogy principles put forth by Malcolm Knowles in the 1970s, and basically, how do we teach adults and what are the kind of things involved in motivation of adult learners. Accessibility and how EDI can play a role in SketchUp, or how SketchUp can kind of satisfy those things. I'll be demonstrating a little bit of the functionality of SketchUp, trying to give you more insight and maybe excite you, inspire you on getting on the program. Then we'll finish off the end with a little quiz and a question and answer. The sources for this presentation, not a whole lot of images, couple YouTube video clips that I've provided as well, just by screen sharing on my PowerPoint presentation. I got an image in this program or in this presentation that's just a screenshot of another set of plans of mine. I did, however, find some reference material for some stats and just more information, and you can see it's provided there. Before we move on, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. The presentation has a Creative Commons license that allows it to be shared with credit to the creator, and no commercial use of this presentation is permitted. I'm giving this presentation to you from my home in Central Saanich on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen and Wasanic peoples. And closed captioning is available on Zoom, so feel free to turn it on if applicable. So let's talk a little bit about what SketchUp is. It was developed in 2000 by Atlas Software of Boulder, Colorado. It was later acquired by Google in 2006, then again later on acquired by Trimble Incorporated in 2012, who's the current owner of the program. It is a subscription-based CAD program. CAD is short for Computer-Aided Design and Drafting, and it offers users the ability to create 3D models from simple to very complex, as well as with the combination of another program that you get both at the same time called Layout. You can take your 3D models and you can actually convert them to a scaled model that would fit on, say, letter paper or 11 by 17 or a full set of plan paper, so that you can have it drawn to scale and in your typical two-dimensional views. So they go hand in hand, those two programs. There's a couple different programs that are under the suite. I've talked about SketchUp Pro and Layout, which come together. There's also SketchUp Studio, SketchUp Shop, and SketchUp Free. And within that, there's also a 3D warehouse that allows users to download other designs that people have made and have uploaded to this 3D warehouse. So further elaborating on the collaboration effort, and as well as just save some time so you can focus more on the relevant design. So for example, say you're designing a house and you want to do the rooms and the basic floor plan, and maybe save some time not having to draft fixtures, toilets, windows, doors. All those things could be pulled out of the 3D warehouse just to save a bit of time. Okay. There is a free version It's not great though. It is free, of course, and you usually get what you pay for. So that being said, it is good for kind of inspiring students, just kind of giving them the basics, but it doesn't include enough of the program to actually produce a set of plans, for example. Now, subscriptions are about $700 a year for the pro license, but as educators and as students, you are eligible for a $75 Canadian or so yearly license through a third-party distributor. And you can find all that information on Trimble's website. It's all very straightforward. Let's move on to the next part. How well does SketchUp apply to the 4 E's of education? So first off, let's look at excitement. Well, in my opinion, SketchUp does a great job of this. Very quickly, you can go from a simple concept in your mind or some simple design criteria in text form and start creating a visual 3D model. And you can pan around and zoom in, zoom out, add color, add texture, relatively easy with very little time and input versus traditional hand drafting. It's directly applicable to many professions: architecture, interior design, industrial and product design, civil and mechanical engineering, landscape architecture, theater, film, video game development, as well as these plans. These 3D models can be converted to file formats that are suitable with like a CNC router or torch or a 3D printer, right? So you can actually take your design and hit print and create a physical tactile object directly related to your design, which could also help with something like assessment and just give you that more exciting feedback. Again, having direct application to a student's career is one of the 6 assumptions that Malcolm Knowles put forth regarding adult education. We'll be talking more about that coming up, about how to motivate adult learners. So it does a good job there, I think. How can it educate our students? Well, we can use it to design plans, right? So its primary purpose is to do that, but we can also use it another way. As educators, I could, for example, I said this earlier, provide my students with supplemental drawings to help them better build the thing that they're trying to build. So the project itself isn't to provide a set of plans, it's to build the thing, but to do that, you need a set of plans. So just giving them more detailed plans, making it available to them. I don't have to send them the files as a layout or as a SKB file, which they wouldn't be able to open on their phone because you have to have the program on a PC or laptop or something like that to open it. I can export everything though to a PDF file. Then at that point, I can email them my student. I can upload them to D2L, and it will just help make that more available to them. And they could be working on a project in the shop and pull their cell phones out because everybody has them on them now, and right there they could just scan around and look at the available options. So I'll be demonstrating that in a moment here. Okay, so here's a typical plan. Simple plan for a set of concrete stairs. You can see at the top here, let me just turn the laser pointer on. Top left, we have a plan view. So that's bird's eye view, 2-dimension of the top. You can see the width of the landing. You can also see the run of the stair tread. Over here, we have an elevation view, so from the side, and you can see the overall length of the staircase, the thickness of the landing, the length of the landing, what we call the effective depth of the stair, the nosing on the stair, and the rise. Over here, we have a simple pictorial drawing just to help give them a little bit more of a clue visually. This is all the information you really would need to build the formwork for this staircase, but for some students, they could use a few more visual clues. So let's take a look at how we could help them with that. So here we have a layout document consisting of 6 views. The first one here is of the edge form, so showing them how to build that. The next view here, we've eliminated a wall, is to show them how to lay out. So the next step you would do is lay out your stairs on your edge form. So based off of your drawing, you would draw all these lines representing your false work and your form work below there. And from that, you will be able to assemble your project. So the next one is doing the walls that are going to support the joists that support the landing for the concrete while it's being placed. So you can see the plates and the studs and the ledger. The next view here is the joists that are bared on top. and carried down. And then we've got the soffit ply going in there to show how the stair would be formed on the back. And lastly, we've got the riser boards with the stringer mounted on the wall and the kicker on the floor. And that gives the student a visual clue of what's going on as far as step by step, right? So vast improvement than just that first drawing I showed you, okay? Now, I can export this as a PDF, as I mentioned, which then allows me to send that to my student without them needing to have the program. So they can open this on a smartphone, or again, we can upload it to D2L. Engagement. Well, I think it fares very well for engagement. Students can collaborate on projects very easily. They can either collaborate as a one-on-one or even as a whole class. So, many large projects require input from structural engineers, architects, mechanical, plumbing, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, landscape design. And so you could be collaborating between different departments in a trade school, right? On a set of plans, or within your classroom, you could have, this person provide a floor plan and the next person to provide the second floor plan, and somebody to provide a roof plan and a cross section, and you put it all together and you have a full set of house plans. So very good for collaboration. It allows for collaboration just by using that 3D warehouse, right? And so you're taking advantage of a design that somebody else has done and offered up for free, and to use it in your design just to help save a bit of time, which again will allow you to get more experience and get more done, and hopefully get a positive feedback loop going. It can be used to evaluate, and I'm going to demonstrate a way to do that here. I would say out of the other, the three other E's, this one doesn't fare as well. So with any set of plans, when we're talking about actually, if the learning outcome is to develop a set of plans, you need review from your instructor. Plans need to be checked. They get checked at the building department when they get submitted. And so eventually, the buck will stop with a human person checking these plans, but we can use it, itself. We can take a model that a student has designed, and I could create a template that then I could fit inside of their model. And if it fits seamlessly, well, then the model that they've created accurately represents, what we're after. So we're going to go back to the stair project that I showed you a second ago, and we'll see how we could use that to evaluate our students' design. We're going to do that in a second when we get just one more step along here. So, okay. So andragogy, we're going to talk about now, which is the theory of adult education versus pedagogy, which is education of children. Okay. So it was a term originally coined by German educator Alexander Kapp in 1883, and is defined as the theory of effective adult education. The theory became popular in the 70s by American educator Malcolm Knowles, and he put forth these 6 assumptions related to the motivation of adult learners. So let's look at what those are. First off is need to know. So if we can, basically convey to our students that this task, whatever we're learning, has a direct relationship to something they can apply or benefit their life in some way, it's going to be, something they're going to get into sooner than later. Adults need to know the reason for learning something and how it impacts them. Okay. So it's kind of a no-brainer there. Gaining experience, right? So, experience provides the basis for learning activities with adult education. And that even means making errors. Okay, so SketchUp lends itself excellent to this, because you can just open the program and through trial and error start developing shapes and models and learn what works and what doesn't. There's many different paths you can take to create, the same model. So multiple students in a room might take several paths to come to the same design. Of course, they can collaborate with each other and see if that's something that, maybe I'll make a change next time and do it their way, or vice versa. And there was a study in 2012, and it was found that 63% of learners made mistakes learning SketchUp. Okay. And they were able to correct them, But they may have needed to go to a YouTube tutorial or to the tutorials that are built into SketchUp. Now, of that same group, 53% were able to, make the correction without any teacher involvement. So that 53% only relied on tutorials, trial and error, and maybe some YouTube clips, while the 63% maybe still had to have some teacher involvement there. Experience is gained quickly, it is intuitive, and you will have a fast learning curve to it, which should provide a little bit of a positive feedback there as well. Adults need to be responsible for their decisions on education, and they want to be involved in the planning and evaluation of their instruction. So learners have full control over how they utilize SketchUp, right? We talked about some methods there. There's many different design suites available, as well as how you'd like to use the program to what, effect, level of detail, size, etc. By assigning specific design criteria and designing our own SketchUp templates, we can give those templates to a student so that they can use it for self-assessment, or we can actually provide them to, supply us a drawing, at which point that would be graded based on our marking template that we're going to demonstrate now. So let's go back and look at this stair project. So we'll pretend that this is a student's project. The first thing we're going to do is take it from layout and send it back to SketchUp so that I can pan around it here, zoom in, zoom out, check out how they've put everything together, see if it all aligns. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to I'm going to make it a one component here first so that it's just one piece as opposed to all its little parts. We're going to go back to my assignment that I'd given the students right here, the plan, and we are going to take this plan and we're going to send it back to SketchUp, where it will become a 3D model again. And we are going to turn that into a single component. And then we're going to copy and paste it, and we're going to drag it over to our student's plan, and we're going to see if it fits. And if it fits, then as long as the carpenters who build the formwork build it as specified, then it's all good, and your design works, and you can move on and have the the I'm getting it moment of having the positive just knowing you've done it right. So you can see here we're fitting it in, and we'll scan around and do a quick inspection here, and as you can see, the concrete fits in the formwork accurately with no gaps, nothing sticking out, looking funny. So we know that, again, provided it's actually built properly, that this design works. Readiness and need to know kind of tie hand in hand together. Again, adults are most interested in subjects having immediate relevance to their work or personal lives. So seeing as learning SketchUp isn't just something you'll do in school and learn something from it and then apply it. You're actually learning SketchUp that you can then apply professionally and like charge money for. So you're getting a valuable tool out of it beyond just your education experience at school, right? So for example, beyond me supplying my students with supplemental drawings like we just demonstrated earlier, they'll actually have the skill to create their own plans, which is value added for any contractor in the carpentry trade, or if you get into design kind of profession, right? In 2012, a study was found that 50% of learners felt very strongly that learning SketchUp was going to be useful in the future. Orientation. So adult learning is problem-centered rather than content-oriented. SketchUp can be utilized with the flipped classroom approach, where learners spend time gaining experience and making mistakes on their own, and class time can be spent problem-solving, right? So it just lends itself to that trial and error. Again, with those statistics we talked about earlier, the majority of students are able to identify problems and fix them without any teacher involvement. So we can spend that precious time in the classroom focusing on, the sticking points of the program. And then lastly is motivation. So adults respond better to internal versus external motivators. And as students gain experience and improve in their drafting abilities, they're going to gain confidence and positive feedback that is likely going to motivate them further. There was a study by Laveri, Zanaku, and Kayla. They had results that indicated positive effect of software use on the students' creative expression regarding fluency and flexibility of thought. Now, how well does SketchUp fare with accessibility and EDI? Well, SketchUp uses symbols and pictograms to identify most of their tools, and they don't have a whole lot of language involved in it. So, you can speak multiple languages. Of course, it's available in multiple languages, and maybe for people with learning disabilities, having those pictograms makes it a little bit easier. The pencil is a line tool, the rectangle is to draw a rectangle, so on and so forth. Obviously, people with visual impairments are going to struggle with it because it is a very highly visible program, obviously. However, people with physical disabilities, it's a much better option than traditional hand drafting. All you're required to do is be able to manipulate a mouse in a very limited range of motion, as well as be able to hit a couple keys for inputting of, length values, etc. And so, it really helps people with physical disabilities. Traditional hand drafting, you have to operate slide rulers, scales, you have to have a very steady hand and a high, accuracy, hand-eye coordination, all that kind of stuff. It's also accessible for people who maybe it's not possible for them to get into the classroom or have the abilities to access those expensive hand drafting tools or have the space for it. It allows for just digital back and forth, so they can be sent as PDF files and reviewed, and just less back and forth, not having to get plans printed and physically sent copies as traditional hand drafting would be. There is a free version, which makes, people with limited funds have better access to it, but it is definitely limited in its application and is really just there to kind of see if it's a program that you like. And if you want to do it, then you're either going to have to bite the bullet and buy the $700 year license, or get it as an educator or as a student for significantly cheaper. It's very collaborative and inclusive in that sense, where people can easily collaborate with each other on design. And design is kind of a universal thing as far as what's appealing to the eye, as well as it's a unique thing for different parts of the world. So with the use of, say, the 3D warehouse, I can download a model of a person that's from Africa or from Asia or from wherever, and these people have modeled themselves in 3D or have provided a model in 3D, or maybe even a structure from those places or something that would be different from what I'm used to in my area. And, I can use it in my design and they can use mine in their design. So it helps kind of break down some boundaries there. With Google Earth, having the ability to take a model and place it on Google Earth, that means that, a person in India could design a building for Kamloops, and they could design it and drop it in Google Map or Google Earth there. Then people can go and zoom in on it, and it's no different at that point than any other object in Google Earth. It's a digital representation of a potentially real object as opposed to a real object. So I think in that sense, it shows multiple building methods and design from other places in the world. So it's got diversity involved there. I'm not sure equity as far as how that would play into it. I'm not sure if it does anything there, but I think it's inclusive and does give a diverse view of the world. So let's just recap in summary of this presentation, okay? So how did it fare with the 4 E's of education? And if I had to rate each one out of 5, let's see how that would look. So I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 on excitement. I think it's a really valuable tool just to get people fired up. It's got obvious applications professionally afterwards, and just because of its broad nature and the things that you can get out of it, again, ranging from a 3D printed model that you hit print and the printer prints out your model, as you've designed it. That can be very exciting as far as getting people fired up on design and drafting. I think it's good on engagement as well. It promotes frequent back and forth between students and instructors and collaboration. And, it's really good at that. For education, I'd give it a 5 out of 5 as well, not just for its use in learning to draft, but for how instructors can use it to help give students supplemental drawings to help them build their projects, say in trade school. As far as evaluation goes, I did demonstrate how you can create templates to actually check a model that a student has made. But if the criteria is to develop a set of plans for, say, a home, then you would need to be able to check those against your criteria list. So you're going to involve an instructor there. So it does kind of lack the ability for meaningful feedback, but it does have a couple little tricks up its sleeve for doing self-assessment. And, I can assess as an instructor as well. We learned about the theories of androgyny, andragogy, and the 6 principles involved there, and how SketchUp can be utilized to satisfy those 6 assumptions. So that was good. And let's just do a real quick quiz here to wrap up this presentation. So what feature allows you to place your model in real world locations? So that would be with Google Earth. So you can upload your model to Google Earth and you can place it in a real world location and people can see what it would look like. What program is required to scale models, add title blocks and dimensions to text? That's the 2-part program with SketchUp, where you'd model and layout, where you would transfer that model and you would scale it either larger or smaller to fit on whatever size paper you want to print this out on. So this is the back and forth with it, and you really do require fluency in layout to create architectural plan sets versus a 3D model. How can a user send plans to other people if those people do not have SketchUp downloaded on their device, their laptop or their cell phone? So that would be with exporting it as a PDF. And at that point, anybody can access it. Of course, you can't manipulate the model or edit it, but it's accessible to the student at that point. Thus concludes my presentation for today. Thank you for exploring SketchUp as an education tool with me and how it can be used to excite, educate, engage, and evaluate adult learners. I hope I was able to give you a couple tips and tricks on how to implement it into your classroom. And if there were any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. Thank you.